Jungkook's official inclusion in the list of America's most influential artists isn't just recognition, it's confirmation. A moment that feels less like a surprise and more like the world finally catching up to what millions already knew. The entry is symbolic. It represents more than commercial success, more than numbers on charts, more than streams or brand deals. It marks the moment when an artist from Seoul, who once stood quietly among 6 others, reshaped the idea of what it means to have global influence. America didn't simply let Jungkook in, it responded to him. This recognition was bound to happen. Jungkook's presence in the US market didn't follow the usual trajectory of a crossover act. He didn't rely on an explosive controversy, a viral scandal, or a short-lived trend. His influence was built through precision. Each performance, each campaign, each appearance calculated not as strategy, but as consistency. In a landscape where fame is often loud and fleeting, his quiet dominance rewrote the rules. America has seen countless artists rise and fade within the same decade. But Jungkook's ascent carries a different rhythm, one that moves steadily and doesn't fade when the spotlight shifts. It's the kind of influence that doesn't scream for attention, it commands it without effort. His entry into the list isn't about arrival, it's about endurance, refinement, and inevitability. Influence in America is no longer limited to who tops the Billboard charts or who wins at the Grammys. It's about who sets the tone, who shapes the visual language, the conversation, and the cultural pulse. Jungkook has done exactly that. His image defines what modern pop minimalism looks like. His collaborations, particularly with brands like Calvin Klein, aren't just endorsements, they're statements. In every campaign, he doesn't play the model. He becomes the mood. Every frame carries the same weight as his vocals, clean, deliberate, and impossible to ignore. When Jungkook walks into an American airport, social media doesn't just record his movement, it mirrors it. Trends emerge, fashion choices replicate, and fans translate moments into digital waves that flood every timeline. That's influence in its purest form, the ability to move culture without speaking. It's not about what Jungkook wears, but how he makes the ordinary feel iconic. Even a simple black t-shirt becomes aspirational when seen through his lens. That's the language of impact, when stillness creates noise. In an American market obsessed with spectacle, Jungkook's restraint becomes his power. He's not the loudest in the room, but he's the one everyone turns toward. That quiet dominance has redefined how influence operates. Jungkook's presence in American pop culture isn't accidental. It's rooted in the rare blend of dual mastery artistry and relatability. While most artists pick a lane, either untouchable mystique or accessible charm, Jungkook moves between, both with precision. He's aspirational yet familiar, global yet grounded. That duality is what separates him from the rest. In interviews, he doesn't over-explain himself. He allows silence to speak. On stage, he performs like someone who understands that every move, every breath, is part of the message. In music, he doesn't chase trends. He shapes them by simply existing within them. His English releases didn't try to imitate Western sounds, they expanded them. Tracks like 7 and Standing Next to You didn't mimic American pop, they refined it. They merged vocal control with emotional pacing, rhythm with restraint. In a market saturated with hooks, Jungkook offered intention. America noticed. Not through marketing slogans or exaggerated campaigns, but through resonance. The audience didn't just stream him, they understood him. His music carried a weight that transcended language, creating the kind of connection that algorithms can't manufacture. That's why his entry into the list feels different. It's not just acknowledgement, it's validation. America didn't just add another name, it accepted a new standard. To be called influential in America means something different now because of Jungkook. It no longer refers solely to domination within the borders of US pop culture. Influence now crosses continents and emotional landscapes. It speaks through fashion, performance, and presence. Jungkook doesn't just participate in trends, he originates them. When he wears something, it becomes an aesthetic. When he posts a photo, it becomes a reference. When he moves, people watch not just to admire, but to decode. That's the kind of control few artists achieve. It's not manufactured virality, it's authentic magnetism. The ability to make simplicity powerful. In America's entertainment structure, many have tried to build influence through excess. More lights, more noise, more visibility. Jungkook moved in the opposite direction, through clarity, through reduction, through discipline. He doesn't fill space, he defines it. That's what makes his recognition not just deserved, but instructive. He's proof that influence doesn't have to be shouted. It can be whispered and still echo globally. His inclusion in the list didn't happen randomly. The timing aligns perfectly with a cultural transition in the US, where audiences are rejecting overexposure and gravitating toward authenticity. Jungkook embodies that shift. In the last few years, the American audience has grown skeptical of the polished, PR-driven version of stardom. They crave presence over performance. Jungkook's natural demeanor, his uncalculated ease, fits the moment perfectly. He represents a new archetype, one where power doesn't need translation. At a time when many Western artists struggle to stay relevant after one viral peak, Jungkook's global dominance feels effortless. His growth is not explosive, but sustained like a steady current that reshapes the entire coastline over time. That's what real influence looks like. It's not measured by a headline or a chart position. It's the accumulation of moments that shift perception. Every time Jungkook's name trends in the US, it's not just fandom activity, it's acknowledgement. The way media frames him, the way brands align with him, the way public curiosity builds around his smallest actions, it's all a reflection of influence at scale. When he was first seen walking into American studios, speculation erupted not because of mystery, but because of expectation. People didn't wonder who he was. They wondered what he was about to do next. That anticipation is the essence of power. Influence isn't just about being recognized. It's about being awaited. America waits for Jungkook. Every project, every move, every silence. That's what separates him from artists who rely on shock or controversy. He doesn't have to create chaos to stay visible. His calm becomes the storm. This milestone redefines not only Jungkook's career, but also how the American industry interprets global success. For decades, influence in the US was inward-looking. Artists had to break into America. Jungkook didn't break in. America expanded to meet him. His rise dismantles the old narrative that Western validation is the final step. In his case, it's the natural outcome. His artistry, his discipline, and his global relevance made this moment unavoidable. Jungkook stands at a point where language barriers have dissolved, where image and sound carry the same emotional currency. His name represents something that American pop culture has been searching for: balance between control and freedom, discipline and charisma. This isn't the end of a journey. It's the midpoint of a transformation where a Korean artist now defines what global influence looks like from within the American system, not from outside it. Jungkook's power doesn't come from force. It comes from awareness, an understanding that influence today isn't about who speaks the loudest, but who makes silence matter. His pauses, his gestures, his calm, they all communicate more than rehearsed words ever could. That's why America couldn't overlook him. Because in a market full of noise, he became the quiet that everyone listened to. He entered the American consciousness, not as a visitor, but as a standard. Not through adaptation, but through authenticity. His success doesn't translate, it transcends. Jungkook has become the reference point. Every new artist entering the global market now faces an unspoken question. Can you hold the same kind of gravity without demanding it? That's the kind of influence that lasts. Influence in the US has often been confused with popularity. Jungkook separates the two. His power lies not in fleeting hype, but in the consistency of excellence. His rehearsals, his visual detail, his delivery all carry the same intensity. This is why America's industry respects him differently. He doesn't rely on chaos or controversy to stay visible. His steadiness becomes the attraction. His silence between projects doesn't cool the interest, it deepens it. That level of discipline has become rare in an era where constant exposure often weakens an artist's image. Jungkook uses absence as strategy, and when he returns, the world stops moving for a second just to see what comes next. America measures success through statistics. Views, streams, ticket sales. Jungkook exceeds all that. His value isn't just numerical, it's psychological. He occupies space in public attention without demanding it. That's a different kind of dominance, one rooted in emotional recall. People don't just remember what he did, they remember how it felt. That memory builds loyalty stronger than any marketing effort. It's the silent architecture of his power. When the American public reacts to him, it's not impulsive, it's instinctive. They don't follow him because he's trending. He trends because they follow. That reversal defines his era. Being named one of America's most influential artists isn't merely symbolic prestige. It's an acknowledgement of a shift already underway, where the boundaries between East and West no longer define artistic authority. Jungkook stands at the center of that evolution. He's not the exception, he's the precedent. The US industry, once gate-kept by language and geography, now mirrors his reach. Every new collaboration, every brand direction, every performance format reflects a post-Jungkook landscape where global authenticity becomes the measure of credibility. His influence has changed how executives, creators, and even audiences interpret power. It's not about dominance through exposure, but through resonance. The quiet confidence that can move an entire culture without ever needing to declare itself. America's history with international artists is filled with short-lived fascination moments of attention that fade once novelty wears off. Jungkook is different. He doesn't exist as a trend. He exists as a standard. The proof lies in his sustainability. He can disappear for months, and his relevance doesn't diminish. That's not fandom persistence, that's legacy formation. His artistry isn't seasonal, it's architectural. Every release, every visual, every collaboration builds on the previous one, forming a structure that no single trend can dismantle. America now views him not as a guest, but as an institution. What Jungkook's inclusion truly signifies is the recalibration of American perception. The idea that influence can come from anywhere, but mastery remains universal. His presence dismantles hierarchies that once defined who could shape the market. He didn't wait for permission. He became the proof that permission was never required. His rise has forced the American system to expand its framework of who defines cultural authority. That's why this moment feels irreversible. America didn't just celebrate Jungkook, it adapted to him. When history looks back, this inclusion won't be viewed as a headline, but as a hinge, a turning point where one artist's presence redrew the borders of what American influence means. Jungkook didn't arrive with noise, he arrived with clarity. His journey isn't about surpassing others, it's about refining himself until the world has no choice but to align. That is why this moment carries weight. He isn't chasing Western validation. He is the validation for an entire generation of artists, proving that influence is no longer owned by geography, but earned by truth. And now, standing among America's most influential names, Jungkook doesn't just represent success. He represents transition from old systems to new realities, from borrowed attention to earned respect. The recognition isn't the end. It's the confirmation that his presence has already reshaped the map.